Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is Kim McIntyre. You can find me on Instagram at Kim's Wellness Space. So today is part 6 of my wellness podcast. I've been doing one every day this week. So if you have just discovered it this morning, hello, you're very welcome. I would love for you to go back and listen to the other 5 parts, but each episode is a standalone. So you can carry on listening to this morning and you will completely understand what's going on. It doesn't matter. Today we are going to talk all things nutrition, which is a really juicy subject to get into. So let's just do a really small recap. So this week, if you follow me on Instagram already, you will have noticed that every day I did a post about a layer of wellness. And then these podcasts are just taking that a little bit further, putting a little bit more information in it, filling it out. And I had also spent the week really being very present on my stories, showing everything that I was doing all day long, just to show that even though I talk about wellness all day long, and I'm an accountability coach, I am human. So things still go wrong, things still happen. You have to flex with the world that we live in. We have to flex with life. We don't live in caves. And that's normal. And we need to accept that that's normal. We are not striving for perfection. We are looking for progress. We're looking for small steps that are taking us in the direction that we want to go for our goals. And of course, we have to know what our goals are. You can't just get up in the morning and hope it's all going to fit into place if you haven't thought about what it is you actually want to achieve. And quite often, what we're wanting to achieve, if we flippantly answer that question, isn't the real reason, actually. So it is always worth really digging down to find out what your why is before we start on anything else. And then we know where we're heading, don't we? So we talked about the importance of getting a really good night's sleep, first of all. We then went on to the fact that if we can spend some time in the morning sunlight, this is also really good for our wellness and it supports our sleep. We then talked about being out in nature. And obviously, if we're experiencing sunlight exposure, we're outside. But being outside in nature is really powerful for us, whatever time of day it is. And so it's really important to get yourself outside. Then we discussed hydration. Then we discussed movement. And today we are talking all things nutrition. Now, I hope that if you have been here all week and you've been listening to each one as we've gone along, that you've noticed that there's a pattern. And I just want to reiterate the fact that if you can nail your sleeping, you can get some sunlight exposure and you can get yourself outside in nature. This is a really, really good foundation for your wellness. And then you can build on it with the hydration, the movement, and the nutrition. And those things, the last 3 things, are easier to achieve if we can nail the first 3 things. And you can't do it wrong. It doesn't matter which way you tackle it, which one of these layers you focus on first. This is just my opinion. But I think if we get a really good night's sleep and we can nail our sleep, it just makes everything else come easier in the morning when we get up. I know personally that if I go out and have a late night with my friends, maybe drink a couple of glasses, that's lovely. It's really important for me to be doing that. But I also know that when my alarm goes off in the morning, I'm going to feel a bit more sluggish. I might not get out of bed at exactly the time I wanted to, which means that then I'm a little bit behind, which then can lead to, well, maybe I shouldn't bother to do that today because I'm a bit behind. Maybe my breakfast choice wouldn't be really as good as it could have been. And none of those things are wrong. Like, you can get up late and have a lay-in, you can go and have a McDonald's breakfast. There's nothing, it's not wrong, it's just it's just different. But if you know what your goal is and you know where you're heading, then maybe you want to make a different choice. So a lot of it is about awareness, isn't it? Okay, so let's try and dig into this subject of nutrition. And I think the first thing we need to acknowledge is that I'm calling it nutrition and not food. And there's a really good reason for this. And actually, my son, when I was chatting to him in the week, he um, he got it straight away, and he said, "Well, nutrition is much more." What did he say? He didn't say much more. He said, uh, "Nutrition is more than food. Like nutrition and food are actually different subjects, aren't they?" So he explained it much better than I just did. I think I tripped over my words a little bit there this morning. But anyway, this is why we're calling it nutrition. We're not talking about food. I don't really want to get into the well, I'm going to say it now, so I suppose we are going to get into a little bit, aren't we? It's that kind of subject. So let's go there. We don't want to be on a diet. This is what we're saying. There is no good food and bad food. There is no treat food. There is no naughty food. Food is food. It has it has calories. It has nutrients. It has vitamins. It has minerals, and some foods fuel us better than other foods. But there is no bad food. So if you were going to be one of my clients for accountability coaching, the first thing that we talk about is, well, how do you want to eat? Because obviously it's always going to be about you. It's not about me. Like all of these subjects we've discussed, um, it's very personal. So there's not one thing suits everybody. And then straight away, we will discuss the fact that there is no restriction on food. If you are someone that likes a slice of cake every day, then let's make sure that we put that slice of cake within the plan that you're going to have. Because as soon as you say you cannot have that, you want it. It's just how our brains work. So we don't have restrictions, we don't have treats, we don't have good and bad food. We just have food and we just decide this is our goal, this is where we're heading, so this is what we're going to eat. So let's just putting that to one side for a moment and come back to nutrition. So, like every day, I've Googled like what are the benefits of of having a nutritious diet to see what it comes up. And I have to say that if I'm using the word diet from now on, it's not about being restrictive or eating a particular diet. It's about just diet. The word is just describing the fact that we eat food. Like diet is a word that has been marketed so that we immediately think about restriction or certain clubs that tell us what we can and can't eat. Where actually diet is just what we eat. So if we Google it, we are told that the benefits of eating nutritious food is that we may live longer. Nice, quite happy with that. Our skin and teeth and our eyes will be healthy. It supports our muscles. It boosts our immunity, strengthens our bones, lowers risks of disease, and helps our digestive system. Now, if you've been with me all week, you'll have noticed that you've heard those before because actually, all of that list is exactly the same as movement, hydration, and sleep. There was a little bit of sunlight in there as well and a little bit of nature. So that's what I was saying when I started at the beginning of this podcast, is that if we can nail those first few things, then this kind of falls into place. If you're sleeping really well, you're really hydrated, you're moving in a way that makes you happy and is working for you, you are much more likely to choose fabulous foods that support where you're going. You just will. It's just how our brains work, and you'll just want to. Um, so what is healthy eating? We hear that a lot, don't we? Like, oh, you need to eat healthy. What is healthy eating? Well, the actual description for what is healthy eating is a diet that maintains or improves our overall health. Seems pretty easy, doesn't it, really? So why is it so complicated? Why do we not know what to eat? I think, and this obviously is just my personal opinion, but I think that um, the world of marketing has done such a good job on us that now we're so confused. We actually don't know what is right for us and what is wrong for us. And I mean, I can only speak for shopping in the UK or in Cyprus where I live, but definitely in the UK, when you go into the supermarket, they are very clever at marketing certain products that they want you to buy for them, not for you. I think that's something that is really important that we remember, is that they are a business and they want sales. So everything they do in their shop is to help their sales. It's not actually to help you in your lifestyle. You have to make that decision for you. You have to make those choices. And only you know what makes you feel good. And I think that is the bottom line. Excuse me. When I'm talking about nutrition, sorry, I'm going to have a drink of water. When I'm talking about nutrition with my clients and what they want to be eating, I always say to them, what foods make you feel good? That's a really, so I know for me personally, if I get up and eat, say a bowl of cereal, let's go some sort of flaky cereal like cornflakes or something. I don't really like it actually because it's milky and I'm not good at that. Um, it doesn't really fill me up. I don't think it tastes that great. Personally, for me, I would eat a big bowl of vegetables. That makes me feel amazing. It's not heavy in my stomach. It fills me up until later on. I know that it's bursting full of minerals and vitamins and proteins and fiber and all that good stuff that makes my body work well. And excuse me. Yeah, and so for me, that's a good choice. So I think it's really good if you're at the beginning of this journey or you're just trying to change something, or maybe, you're listening to this thinking, oh, well, maybe I need to change up what I eat to support where I want to be. A really good way of starting is just to track your food, not as in calories, but just literally write down what you eat and how it makes you feel. And you'll already know probably that um, some things you eat. So, like if I eat a lot of bread, it can sit heavy in my stomach. It makes me feel a bit sluggish, makes me feel like, oh, I don't really want to do anything. You get that 3 o'clock sort of sleepiness. Whereas if I'm eating fruit and vegetables, I'm much more energized. I've got more energy. So it's noticing how foods react with your body, how they make you feel, and all those ones that make you feel amazing and full of life and zing, well, they're the ones you want to eat. The ones that make you feel a bit sluggish and a bit, we don't probably want to eat very many of them, do you? Um, the other thing that I would say, if someone was asking me my opinion, and I'm not qualified in nutrition, I've just got experience from having lived as long as I've lived and read and studied what I've studied and read. Um, in my experience, I would always say it'd be much better for your body to eat foods that are whole foods. Try not to eat very many processed foods and get as many fruit and veg in as you can. Um, if you're someone that doesn't eat any fruit and vegetables, maybe start by increasing that by one. If you think, oh, well, I'm not too bad, I probably have a piece of fruit in the morning, maybe try and increase it to two. If you've got your plate of food and there's only a little bit of greenery, maybe try and spread that greenery a little bit more. Ideally, a half a plate of vegetables and then using the other half of your plate for your other food is a good rule of thumb. But it is so personal, and I absolutely am not here to be telling you what to eat, and I'm absolutely not here to be telling you what you can't eat. Um, but I want to tell you about my experience. So I would describe, I don't like boxes, I don't like labels, and if you've followed me on Instagram or you've listened to any of my other podcasts, you'll know that I'm not really very good when someone puts me in a box with a label. I don't like that because I think that's where half the trouble comes from, because then you start putting in rules and I can't, and that's never going to be a good thing. But if you have to label me, the way I eat is whole food, plant-based, no oil, which sounds a bit of a mouthful. And generally, if we're out and I have to explain it, I'll just say I'm vegan. Um, so we started this journey um, about 4 years ago, because actually my brother had mentioned to me about a program on Netflix that he'd watched, and he said, "Oh, you'll like it. I'm not doing it, but you'll like it. You'll find it interesting." So I was like, "Okay." And so that was just before Christmas. We'd come back home to Cyprus, and in the new year, we had an afternoon where we were like, "Oh, let's put the telly on. What should we watch?" And I said, "Oh, let's watch that program. Let's see what it was about." So we watched this program about how people had all these aches and pains and really weren't very well, and then changed their diet to a plant-based diet. So taking out all animal products, no meat, uh, no eggs, no dairy, and it was like watching some sort of miraculous Hollywood film. All these people within a very short space of time were getting better, and not just a little bit better, like they were getting a lot better. There was one lady in particular that always sticks with me. She was in so much pain, and she didn't get out of her chair. She sat in her chair all day long every day. She couldn't walk. She couldn't even walk around her apartment that she lived in. And she changed her diet, and they went back to see her after 2 weeks of changing the way of eating. And she was walking up and down the road like there'd been nothing wrong with her. And I remember watching it, and my husband and I looked at each other and said, "Oh, that can't be right. This has got to be like some sort of, you know, just effects for the film, that there must be more to it." Anyway, we carried on watching. It was very informative. We really liked it. And when we got to the end, we stopped to have a conversation, because actually at the time my husband had very bad hands, so he couldn't really use his hands very well, and he couldn't kneel down because his knees were very bad. And just walking up and down a few steps was painful for him. So I said to him, "Well, let's use it as an experiment. If you've been here a while, I like to do that. Um, let's give it a try. We'll do it for 7 days. We'll cut out all the animal products, absolutely completely. Um, and we'll do it for 7 days. We'll check in with each other every day to see how we're doing. And if we absolutely hate it and we want to go out and eat chicken or have a lump of cheese or whatever it is, then we'll definitely do it with no judgment on each other. And let's just see if we can get 7 days done and see if it makes a difference." So we kind of said, yeah. But I don't think we were even taking it that seriously, to be fair. But we did clear out the cupboards. We got rid of all of the animal products. Neither of us had milk in our teas and coffees anyway, so that wasn't a problem. Like, I'm not someone that has ever enjoyed milk, so that didn't matter to me. Um, and I was starting this from a healthy point of view. There was nothing wrong with me. I was fine. I didn't have any aches and pains. I didn't have any illness, but I wanted to support my husband because he was in a lot of pain. And if it worked, then great. Uh, so we did our first 7 days. And at the end of 7 days, he had so much reduced pain in his hands. It was amazing. Like, the pain hadn't gone completely, but it wasn't waking him up at night. He could now make fists with his hands. He could use his hands, and he could bend down, kneel down, and there was no pain. And we were like, "Oh, that's interesting." On the flip of that, um, I actually felt better. And if you remember just a minute ago, I told you there was nothing wrong with me. But I obviously did have aches and pains and creaks that had sort of disappeared. I I was suffering with a little bit of carpal tunnel syndrome. That went. I was sleeping better. I was getting up in the morning with more energy. So we were like, okay, let's do another week. And we kept going. And so here we are, 4 years later, we're still doing it. Uh, it is a bit like a miracle because you just think, how can that possibly be? But it's brilliant and it works for us. Like, I'm not telling you that you've got to go out and do it, but it definitely works for us. And I have seen so many benefits, and we are so much more healthy now than we were before. And but it's definitely been a transition. So when we first started and we cut out um, all the animal products, we were buying things like vegan cheese, we were buying vegan, like the processed fake meats to help us because we couldn't really work out what we were supposed to eat. And we'd removed this big chunk of what we had been eating. So we felt like we needed to replace it with something. And I think a lot of people that change over into this way of eating, that's how they do it. It's a process. Um, so yeah, so we did that. And then as we kind of gradually went on, I was then reading and learning because I always want to make sure that we're doing it right. And it was really, I have to laugh. It was so funny. People can't start straight away saying, well, where do you get your protein from? And, you know, there's this myth that people that eat vegetables don't get protein. I can honestly tell you, hand on heart, I have tracked it because I wanted to make sure that I was doing it properly. I eat more protein now as a non-meat eater than I ever ate when I was eating meat products, animal products. Fascinating. Um, and yeah, and so because I did some learning, then I realized that these fake products, there wasn't actually much goodness in them, because they're fake products. So then we started to see if we could make our own. So rather than buying a vegan burger from the shop, I'd make something here at home where I literally had all the fresh produce in front of me. I could make a bean burger, say. Um, and like both of us love cooking, but we really found that our love of cooking took off even more. Um, and we got to the point where we were writing our own recipes and arguing over whose turn it was to cook in the kitchen that night. And then so the fake meats and the vegan products sort of disappeared, and we were really eating um, just fruit and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans. And I have to say, people say to us, "Oh my God, what do you eat?" But I eat more variety of food now than I did before. Um, and then we decided to cut out oil, which is quite interesting. And obviously, we've only cut out oil where we can control it at home. If we're out, and you're in a restaurant, they use oil, it's fine. It's not a big deal. We eat it. If we go to friends, they probably do use oil. Again, we would eat it. It's not an issue for us at all. But if we're at home, we choose not to use it. Because I read somewhere that it takes 44 olives to make a tablespoon of oil. And actually, if you were to, I mean, you wouldn't eat a tablespoon of oil, would you? Just like eat it. But if you were to, like, there's no real goodness in that oil because it's all been pressed and squeezed to get that oil out. All the fiber's gone. Like, a lot of the nutrients have gone. So you'd be much better off eating 44 olives. Well, who could eat 44 olives? I mean, 10's probably my limit, and I love an olive. So we removed that. And that made our food better. And better because our taste buds have changed. Our taste buds have changed all the time. So now the produce that we eat really tastes it doesn't taste salty, it doesn't taste artificial. It just tastes amazing. I love it. I mean, I could talk to you about for long if I um and now we've kind of transitioned again. So this year we are eating even more fruit and vegetables, if that's possible, than we were before. So vegetables for breakfast, loads and loads of fruit. Like, people are really frightened of eating fruit because they go, "Oh, well, it's sugary and I'll put on weight." Like, nobody ever put weight on from eating fruit. It's not man-made, processed. It's just nature's goodness. It's a journey, isn't it? And I'm not saying that we won't ever eat animal products, but at the moment, this is what's serving us best. And my goal personally is to be the strongest, fittest, flexiblest. Oh, I don't think that's a word. The most flexible, that's probably better. Um, that I possibly can be so that I can live the rest of my life completely, fully. I don't want to be saying, oh, I can't do that because I've got a bad knee, or I can't do that because my arm hurts. I want to be like, yep, I'll do that. Run around with the grandchildren, swimming in the pool, having fun, living life to the absolute fullest. And if I can live to 100 doing that, then that is my aim and that is what I'm going to do. Um, so yeah, that's nutrition. Like, it's such a big subject. We could literally be here talking all day long. That's just a little glimpse into the world, really, isn't it? And obviously all my opinions, just from my experiences. But I think it's important to share. I think it's important to, share the good and the bad so that you can make an informed choice, or you can, you might be like, oh, I might try that. You know, it's worth a go, isn't it? What have you got to lose? If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. I think that was one of the biggest things um, that helped us with our transition, was the fact that we both were very keen to try and very supportive of each other, but also supportive of the fact that if one morning we got up and say, like, my husband said, I'm done with this, I'm going to go and have a steak, he absolutely could have had that steak and there would be no judgment from me, because I don't know what's right for him, only he does. So a really good example, actually, excuse me, a really good example of this is cheese. So cheese, like, we were both quite big cheese eaters. And whenever you talk to anybody about a plant-based diet, the first thing they say is, oh my God, but I love cheese. I couldn't not have cheese. And I completely get that, because I was a big cheese eater. And I was worried. I was like, how am I gonna do this and not eat cheese? But because we were only doing it for a short period of time, like 7 days and then another 7 days, it's not so bad, is it? Like, if someone had said to me on day one, you can never eat cheese again for the rest of your life, I might have had a different attitude towards having a go. But we did it slowly. But after about 3 months, I woke up one morning and I said, you know what? I am dreaming about cheese. So the next time we go out for dinner, I'm actually going to have a pizza with some cheese on it, because it's consuming my thoughts. And so rather than restricting and denying myself, I'm just going to go with it and have it. Maybe my body needs some cheese. I don't know. I'm learning. So we'll see. And so we went out for dinner and I did. I had a vegetable pizza, which obviously had cheese on it. Um, and you know what? It was disgusting. I did not like it. This cheese made me feel sick. Like, I ate it because, I'd ordered it. And so I ate it. But it was a real turning point because I didn't enjoy it at all. And honestly, now, if I think about eating cheese, it does make me feel quite ill. And I just wouldn't eat it. And that amazes me. I have since read that there's something in cheese that makes us quite addicted to it. So we want to keep going back to it. And it actually takes about 3 months to get out of your system. Yeah, fascinating. Absolutely. I love things like that. I love learning about things like that. So it is very trial and error. It is very, your body best. If there has to be rules, I don't like rules, but if there has to be rules about nutrition, I think it is work out what your goal is and where you're headed, and then choose the best things that make you feel amazing. Like, eat the food that makes you want to dance. Don't eat the food that makes you feel like you want to go to sleep. That's probably a really good rule of thumb, if there has to be one. But as I said at the beginning of this podcast, and I've been saying all week, if you can nail your sleep, your sunlight, get yourself out in nature, you are already winning. You're already doing it. Then add in that hydration, add in that movement, and then the nutrition will just follow, because you're already going to be feeling amazing. You're all going to be having those amazing benefits, of living longer, healthy skin, healthy eyes, healthy bones, strong muscles, strong immune system, like all of that stuff is already going to be there. The nutrition is just one more layer of it. And so, if you are someone that is wanting to get into a really good wellness routine, wanting to achieve your goals, I would say absolutely don't worry about the nutrition. Start at the other end. Start with the sleep, start with the sunlight, do it that way round. Don't be focusing on the food. Don't be focusing on your weight or your fat loss, because that will just come. It will be a byproduct and it will just arrive. You don't need to be focusing on it. You can focus your energy on all the other good stuff that there is out there. Okay, so that's me for today. I really, really hope that you have enjoyed these 6 parts or 6 layers of wellness that I've shared with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing my thoughts with you. Um, there is going to be a bonus episode tomorrow. It is going to have a surprise at the end. So I really hope that you will come back and listen. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes and today's the first one, I encourage you to go back, have a listen, see what you think. If you like them, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube or stars on the podcast platforms. Share with your friends, tell people about it. Let's get everybody feeling well, living amazing lives. If you want to see more of what I'm doing, come over and see me on Instagram at Kim's Wellness Space. And yeah, I will speak to you tomorrow in the bonus episode. Bye.